What's good, y'all? Back at again with the All Facts No Cap podcast, and I'm your host, Harsh Ricard. And wow, what a conference finals this has been because all four teams have been small market teams, and they're all not like great teams, but they are playing pretty great basketball. And I don't know how long this will be, so it'll probably be like 10. I'll also probably talk about the lottery in a few minutes, but here we are, and let's start with the Suns Clippers series. That was a really great series, although the Clippers really could have taken that series if had they played better. The Suns deserve all the credit in the world. They made the finals the first time in the playoffs after 10 years, and they still they managed to win the final to win the West, which is pretty impressive. Although yeah, there were injuries, but I'm not going to take the credit away from the Suns. They still made the finals. They played fair basketball. Everything is good. However, However, this proved the emergence of DeAndre Ayton, as I do think he's getting a little bit overrated just because I think Chris Paul is actually, and the Suns in general, just making him better than he usually is, better than how he actually is. However, we do have to give credit to him in the Phoenix Suns. They deserve it. Monty Williams, coach of the year, or one of the coach of the year. Chris Paul deserves a finals appearance. Devin Booker was known as an empty stats years ago, and now he's in the finals. And DeAndre Ayton, yeah, he fits the team well. Mikal Bridges, amazing. Dario Saric, everyone was good. Everyone, the Phoenix Suns are hitting on all the different levels, and I think I predicted Suns in six before, and I was right on this one. And they're my championship favorite. And I'll go to them why they are, but they are my championship favorite. Now moving on to the Atlanta versus Bucks series. So the Bucks just beat the Atlanta Hawks. I'm recording this almost at 3 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, so the Bucks just beat the Hawks. And to talk about it, I will say congrats to the Bucks. Although Trae Young was injured and needed to play in game six, shout out to Trae Young, shout out to the Hawks. I'll talk more about them later, but I will talk about the Bucks right now. The Bucks deserve to make the finals. They beat the Nets. They should definitely make the finals after that. Giannis definitely deserves it after 2 years in Milwaukee where he won MVP. And then he could have won this year, but voters fatigue, of course. But now he's in the finals playing alongside the Phoenix Suns. And the reason why I don't have them beating the Suns because of a few reasons. Number one is the Mike Budenholzer. I don't know. Mike Budenholzer sometimes makes the wrong adjustments and then it backfires a lot. And sometimes Middleton and Drew Holiday, although they played pretty well against the Atlanta Hawks, I don't know if they'll play the same way against Phoenix. I don't know. Just they are very inconsistent, and it's very. And if Giannis is out for most of the series, then I don't see them winning. Especially if you have Mike Budenholzer as your coach, and you have and Mike Budenholzer has done a good job recently, and I give all the credit to him. But Monty Williams has been hitting at his ceiling. Phoenix Suns have been hitting in all their ceilings. It has been hitting on all ceilings. I mean, and it's just hard for me to go pick against the Suns as they've pretty much proven everyone wrong. People thought they'd lose to the Lakers, then people thought they'd lose to the Clippers. It's kind of hard to root against them, and I think Suns in seven is my call, as I do think in crunch time when it matters, and Mike Budenholzer sometimes not being a great coach. This is just I think this is just Suns in seven for me. It could be Suns in six too, but I would say Suns in seven. I do think Milwaukee will get if it all depends on if Giannis comes back. It all depends on if Giannis comes back, but I do think he'll be back by like game 2 or 3 because they might like force him to come back if they're down bad, but they probably won't be down bad. And I do think it will be better for it would be better for the team to make him sit out for a few games. Then we'll see. And shout out to Atlanta. Atlanta, the future is bright for you guys. If you are a Hawks fan listening to this, the future is bright for you guys. I have much respect for you. During and Trae Young, congratulate. Shout out to Trae Young. Shout out to John Collins. Shout out to Kevin Herter. Shout out to Cam Reddish, who was actually going off today. Cam Cambridge, who was actually going off today, yeah, and Nate McMillan. Nate McMillan has to be back for sure. As this squad faced a coaching change in the middle of the season, and now they were in the Eastern Conference Finals. You upsetted New York and you upsetted Philly, which was pretty pretty extravagant. And like, I really like how they did it. As I do think they were such a great underdog story. But the future is bright for you guys. The future is bright for Atlanta, and I'm happy to say that because I am a fan of Trey Young. And yeah, that's basically what I'm gonna say talk about for the playoffs because I don't really have anything on my mind right now. Maybe if I have a guest over, I'll probably talk more about it, but we'll see about this. But now I'm gonna talk about the draft lottery, and the draft lottery is actually pretty good. Like I'm a Rockets fan, and I wanted at least the top four pick, but the Rockets got the second pick, which I'm really glad. And if you want me, if you want my opinion on who I should take, I will probably talk about that in a different episode because right now I'm evaluating the players right now. But I'm going to talk about the winners and losers in the lottery. So the winners of the lottery are Detroit. Detroit's easily a winner. Detroit's easily a winner as like you haven't had a franchise cornerstone in a long period of time, and Cade Cunningham is known as a generational talent, right? So it's and he actually fits the team really well as of right now. He fits the team really well, and I do think Kate Cunningham can be a star in this league. And this is just me going off right off the bat. I'm not even watching like any of his highlights. I just think he's going to be a star in this league. Maybe Detroit does not develop, but I highly doubt. This guy is so talented. Like he has to be a problem in the league. However, let's move on to the first loser of the draft, and that is Orlando. You, although you do get two top 10 picks, which is really great, you don't really, you really tank to try to get the number one pick. And it's really, it's really of the fact that you went from the third pick to the fifth pick, which is not a good drop off, but you went from possibly getting Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Jalen Green, or Jalen Suggs, and then now you're probably relying on like Jonathan Kuminga, Scotty Barnes, and like Moses Moody and those guys, which is great, which is really great. But the fact that you tried to tank, you gave away all your players, you gave away your starting center, you gave away Evan Fournier, yeah, you gave away an all star and a solid player just so that you can try to have a shot at getting a high draft pick in this draft, like the top four pick, and you couldn't get it, which is pretty. It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. However, you do have a top. You also have another top 10 pick, so it is possible for you to trade up. But I don't see Detroit trading their pick. Houston, they could trade their pick, but I don't think they'll trade down to like five. I think they'll trade down to like three or four. Same with Cleveland. And Cleveland actually might trade up the draft, to be honest. Maybe the second pick with Houston, but we'll see about that. And this and yeah, maybe you just stay. You can really just stay at that fifth overall pick, hoping just one of those guys just fall down. But you still are a loser in this, according to this draft lottery. We'll see what happens when the draft comes, and then and then oh yeah, the second winner is the Toronto Raptors, and the reason why the Toronto Raptors are a winner in the draft lottery is just because the fact that you had the odds to get just the seventh pick, and then you end up being in the top four. And you end up being in the top four. That's just pretty great. That's just pretty great. Like you won't get like Cade Cunningham or like you probably won't get like Cade Cunningham, but you might get someone that just falls down to four. Which, in my opinion, Jalen Suggs would be a perfect fit for the not a perfect fit, not a perfect fit, but I do think it's a good fit. It all depends on how Kyle Lowry ends up this offseason. But I'll talk more about like which team fits more like later on. Right now, I'm just gonna probably talk more about the lottery and probably more about the playoffs because there might be something I forgot. And my second loser is probably the Minnesota Timberwolves as you lost your pick, although you're not like although you try to tank this season because Carl Anthony Towns was injured. Anthony Edwards was only playing for like was playing good until like the second half. D'Angelo Russell was injured, and you lost your top four pick to the Golden State Warriors, which is pretty rough. But however, I don't think they're a big loser just because of the fact that I don't think they're trying to tank, which might sound shocking, but I don't think they're trying to tank just because they traded for D'Angelo Russell and they gave up that pick for a reason because they wanted to see what will happen. And yeah, that's basically what I'm going to talk. I'm not really going to do a mock draft right now. I'm just going to talk about the winners and losers, and I talk about two winners and two losers. But in order to talk about most of the players, it seems pretty good how it seems pretty great how this is probably the most stacked class we'll ever see in our life. I think this is probably the most stacked class as in like coming prospects wise, as in this is probably the most talented draft class, and the first three picks are franchise changers. They'll be number one. They'll be considered as generational talents at any other draft. Also, the top, even like the top, maybe like the top seven picks, honestly, are like number one overall picks in any other draft. Just pretty great, pretty great. Also, yeah, more about the Suns and Clippers. I was just kind of all going off topic right there. I just talk about like so many different things. But Suns and Clippers, shout out to the Suns, I already said, but also shout out to the Clippers. A lot of people kind of wrote them off after they were down 2-0 against the Mavericks, and then they just really they just really proved anyone wrong. They just proved that they were the actual better team. And it actually kind of sucks because although I do think Kawhi Leonard will stay with the Clippers because I do think he has the mentality where he sees this team make the conference finals and he probably thinks if I played, I probably would have I probably would have made the team a champion. I probably would have brought a championship as well as this guy made such a big deal just to go to LA. So I don't know. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't. And I know it's very unpredictable because Kawhi is Kawhi, but it seems like it just seems pretty obvious why you would want to stay. You made a big deal just to go there, and then this team made the conference finals without you, and you can probably just say, okay, if I played, this team would have won the championship. And one thing I was actually going to bring up is that the Clippers really were unlucky this year as Kawhi Leonard got injured, yeah, and Serge Ibaka was also injured, which he probably would have been made a huge difference. And another Another thing is shout out to Reggie Jackson, man. He had one hell of a playoff series. And Terrence Mann too, that 26, that 39, I mean, that 39-point game against Utah that made them blow a 25-point lead. That was insane. Also, Reggie Jackson, shout out to you, man. You had a great season. You had a great playoffs. And hopefully you can be that next year. And then maybe the Clippers become a championship team. Who knows? But it all depends on Kawhi if he stays or not, which I do think he stays because there's no way, like I've already said, there's no way he leaves after the team does that. However, he did that for Toronto. They won a championship and then he left to LA, but he is in LA, so I don't really see that as a factor of him leaving. Also, I don't really see where he would go as like I don't see where he would want to go. Because where would you want to go? Golden State, maybe, but it has to be a sign and trade. The Knicks, the Knicks, come on, like no one's going to the Knicks. Miami, like does Miami want to do like does Miami like do the Clippers want young assets yet they are a winning team? They are a championship contender, I mean. Also, the Mavericks, like they might. Like, I was probably going to talk more about the Luka situation on the Mavericks, but I really don't know much about it actually. All I just know is that Luka Doncic is having contract issues, but I don't think it's going to do anything. I do think he'll be fine in Dallas. He's going to be there. I don't think they're going to lose him. And yeah, what other teams can Kawhi really go to? As I don't see him going to the Lakers. I don't see him going anywhere else. I don't even see him going to the Nets, and it's gonna be very impossible for him to do that. And yeah, that's basically all I'm gonna talk about right now. And maybe I'll talk a brief I'll talk about a I'll talk briefly about free agents and see like their destinations and like where I predict they'll probably go NBA free agents. And all I'm gonna say is a lot of it's not really a good free agent class this year, as I don't see a lot of them go. Like it's not really a big free agent class this year, and I see a lot of the players like staying with their teams. As for example, Kawhi Leonard, Chris Paul, they'll probably stay with their original teams. However, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, and Mike Conley, I I do see Conley staying because the Jazz were their number one seed in the league. They probably want to run it back again. I do think Conley's gonna stay. Kyle Lowry, I probably see like a sign and trade. I probably see him like agreeing to a sign and trade to maybe like the Sixers because they need a shot creating guard. Uh, what else? What else would be the Boston Celtics? Maybe think. I don't think they'll have the trade assets for it, or even if he just signs their free agency. I don't know if they have the cap space. As yeah, they did get rid of Kemba Walker for Al Horford, which actually I'm going to talk about that for a second. A lot of people I've talked to, they're all saying that the 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 Celtics got robbed because they got rid of Kemba Walker and just got Al Horford, which they could have just paid him for a reason. But I kind of laugh at that because like Kemba Walker was really just a terrible fit on that team. Like I don't like yeah, it's not the best thing you could have gone for him, but it's not the it's more of the best thing that you could have gone for him. Like this guy was a terrible fit. He had knee issues. He couldn't really do anything. He really couldn't do anything, and he was very inefficient. So it was was Kemba Walker really that effective? No, he wasn't. And for them getting Al Horford a low post big that can stretch the floor, that's pretty good. But they still need that point guard that can generate the offense, which is why I said Kyle Lowry might go there, which I've heard one of my friends talk to me about that. It's very it's very great for the Boston Celtics to get him, but I don't know if they will get him. Also, at least a sleeper part of that trade actually was Moses Brown. I've had Moses Brown for my fantasy, and I've also seen a bit of film on him, and he seems like a hidden gem. He seems like a pretty solid center, a solid modern day center. Although he can't really stretch the floor, he is a great rim protector, and I think Boston maybe can develop him right, can develop him into a better player. And even then, Al Horford might not even be a long term solution. So if they get Al Horford and Moses Brown, Al Horford is like there for a couple years. He's gone. Moses Brown will probably be the new franchise center, and I do believe he could be that for the Boston Celtics, as he was pretty good for Oklahoma, and now at Oklahoma develops well, so probably he may have benefited from that, but I do think the Boston can develop can maybe I do think Boston can probably develop him better and maybe he becomes their franchise center. Actually, wait, I forgot about Robert Williams. Yeah, I forgot about Robert Williams because or just he can be a solid center that can rim protect. But we'll see more about the. And one thing I was actually gonna say about was Al Horford already knows the C system. He has a good connection with the organization, so it wasn't really that bad of a trade for the Boston Celtics. For Oklahoma, on the other hand, they are Kemba Walker will probably rejuvenate his career there. That's just probably what it's gonna be. Kemba Walker will probably rejuvenate his career there, and then his value will be so high. Then they'll probably get like 2 first round picks out of him, Kemba Walker, which is probably like the Celtics like worst nightmare, but it's probably going to happen. Kemba Walker will probably play at an all-time level. Like he will get his trade stock again, and then he'll probably and then yeah, he'll probably get sent for like two first round picks, which Sam Presti, man. But this has happened so far for Chris Paul. His stock became an all-time high, and then he gets sent to the Phoenix Suns, and now he's winning. But yeah, so Chris Paul was sent for just Russell Westbrook. Chris Paul and 4 first round picks were just sent, and for just like Russell Westbrook, and then that and then he rejuvenated his career, and then he just got sent for a much better offer, and then Al Horford, basically the same thing, and then now Kemba Walker will probably be next on that board, and it's really, yeah, it's really crazy how Oklahoma can just bring in this talent and then just completely turn it around. As so many guys, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Serge Ibaka, Victor Oladipo, Domantas Sabonis, Chris Paul, Al Horford, who I'm forgetting like probably so many different people, but all those guys at one point in their careers, they all played in OKC. They all played in OKC. Paul George, yeah, exactly. They all played in OKC, which is pretty insane because Sam Presti knows how to find talent. It just shows. Paul George wasn't really found there, but he also played probably his best basketball there. So it really just shows how great of an organization Oklahoma is, and they also basically set for the future as they have so many picks. Also, yeah, even if they try to win now, they could use those as assets to like for the next disgruntled star, which I believe will be De'Aaron Fox. And I do understand Cat might be the next guy up, but I don't know. I don't see Cat wanting to leave Minnesota. I do think Minnesota can try this trio of D'Lo, Ant, and Cat for like a year, but will but like I think they're trying to be more of a win. I don't know if Cat really wants to stay or not, but I do think De'Aaron Fox will also be on that list where the next disgruntled star that would want to leave, which is pretty good. Which is pretty good. Which I'm a huge De'Aaron Fox fan. I want him out of Sacramento, and like, why will I want him to stay in Sacramento? Because Sacramento's a dying place. Like, who knows? But also, yeah, I was also gonna give a shout out to the person that sent the message. The one person that sent the message, Gangway. Shout out to you on my Anchor podcast, on my Anchor show, on my Anchor feed. That's what it's called. And yeah, I think this is all what I'm gonna talk about today. As I'm Harshvikar, and this is the All Facts No Cap podcast.